everyone, welcome to a new video. I hope you're all doing great. Today I will be analyzing a very defensive company with a high potential for growth in the future, and this company is no other than Waste Management. As always, before diving into the topic itself, I would like to give you a brief overview of what I will be discussing in this video. So first we will be looking at the company, understanding their business model and some general figures. Then we will be going into the stock, their stock price, dividends and so on, followed by their financials, so the income statements and the balance sheet. And finally, I will be giving my opinion on the stock itself, whether I want to invest in it, and if so, at which price would I like to purchase shares of it. But before we start with the juicy part of the video, remember that I'm no financial advisor, that I'm just sharing here my thoughts on the stock and my personal plans with it, and that before investing in the stock market, you should do your own research, and yeah, just make sure that you do that before investing. That said, let's go and analyze which is the business that Waste Management is in. As the name already says, Waste Management is an American company that basically manages the waste generated by us humans and is involved in the whole process of it. As we can see in the screen, the revenue from the company comes from four main areas: collection, transfer, landfill, and recycle. The whole process of waste management starts with the collection, in which they collect waste from many different segments, so the industrial, commercial, and residential, as we can see in the graph on the right. And for this, they use a variety of trucks and containers that are specifically devoted to each of these different segments. Then, once the waste is collected, the next step they follow is to drop it all in the transfer stations. Transfer stations are locations in which, as we said, the waste is collected, but then there they also pack it all and they prepare it in order for it to be distributed into the different disposal sites. After this step, there are essentially two different options. In case these materials can be recycled, they go into what is called the recycling process, and they are moved into one over the 100 material recovery facilities that they have across North America. And in these facilities, basically, the waste is prepared and selected in order to be sold to third-party companies, and these third-party companies are actually the ones that will be really recycling these products and giving them a new use. On this, 80% of the recyclables are sold to the domestic market, which means to the US market, and then 100% of all the residential plastic is sold solely to US companies. Alright, we said that if the waste could be recycled, it was transferred to the recycling facilities that they have and processed there. But what happens if the waste cannot be recycled? Well, in that case, the waste is taken to landfills. And in fact, Waste Management owns and operates 250 landfills distributed across North America. Some interesting facts about the landfills are two. The first one is that Waste Management owns these 250 landfills, and they have an estimated lifespan of 40 years, which means that they expect them to be full in the next 40 years, which still gives them a lot of time to build new landfills in order to make sure that all the waste can be stored. And secondly, and something that I find super interesting, is that with the gas produced by the landfills, they generate electricity. And in fact, every year they generate enough electricity to power 500,000 homes in the US. With all of this, I have already explained the full cycle of waste management and how it is able to serve 20 million industrial, commercial, and residential customers. Going back to the picture at the beginning, we can see that most of the revenues come from the collection of waste, followed by the landfill and the transfer. And something that is key in their operation is that they operate the full process, which allows them to have higher final margins of disposing of the same waste they collect. In fact, 70% of the waste collected goes into their own landfills. And now, just to have a picture of how big they are, you can see in the screen all the different facilities that they own across the US and Canada. Moreover, in terms of defensive company that I shared or that I said at the beginning, it is not only because of the fact that as humans we generate waste no matter whether we are on lockdown or not, but mostly also because they are very diversified across industries. As we can see, it is spread across public sector, retail, manufacturing, real estate, healthcare, construction. And finally, another point in favor of the company is that they have a very experienced management team, with many of them having been part of the company for 15 to 20 years. Now that we have clear what waste management does, let's go and analyze the stock. Waste management is trading under the ticker symbol WA. At the moment, the stock is worth $114 per share, with a very nice graph with a clear uptrend. At the current price, the dividend yield is of 1.91% with a payout ratio according to Nasdaq of 30.16%. Moreover, looking at the company itself, it has been paying dividends and consistently increasing them over the past 17 years, with an increase for this year versus the previous one of 6.3%. Also, it has been able to do so while maintaining similar payout ratios. So far, we are seeing that this company is in an industry with very high barriers. It is very consolidated with a very well-established business model, and it's also performing very good in the stock market. Now it's time to look at their financials to see if they also support all of the good things that we are saying so far. But before doing so, remember to hit that like button if you are enjoying the video. Thank you. In order to do so, we will be looking at the Q2 earnings report that they published on July 30th, 2020. Firstly, looking at the debt ratio, it is of 74.1%, which makes it a relatively conservative company. Considering also the nature of its business that we have discussed, in which they have relatively predictable operations and cash flows, I would say that this is very conservative. Also, something interesting is that while many other companies are trying to hold as much cash as possible, and generally speaking they hold more than previously, in the case of waste management they have less than they had 6 months ago. Now switching into the income statement, we see that they reported a net profit for the quarter of $307 million, with a decline from the same quarter last year of 19.63%, mainly driven by the decrease in revenues. If we think about it, this is understandable that they have less revenues, because if economies are shut down, of course we still generate waste as humans, but if industries are not open or businesses are not open, then of course this waste is reduced, and this also can explain the reduce in the revenues that they had. In any case, I think that they actually performed very well, specifically considering that many of the other companies in the stock market have been reporting losses during the past quarters, but that's also something of the nature of the business of waste management, which is very predictable and defensive, as just proven now in periods of recession in which it is still able to report profits. Also, seeing its performance during the past years, we see a consolidated company that reported profits every single year during the past 4 years. Now that we have seen all the different aspects of this business, it is time for me to wrap things up and give my opinion and conclusions on the stock. As you probably noticed, this is a company that I really like and that I think it certainly has a very bright future as the global population grows and we generate even more waste. Moreover, they are the leaders in an oligopolistic market with very high barriers to entry, because it's very hard to set up all the landfills, the operations that they have, the trucks and everything, which should make it relatively easy for them to maintain this leading position. With all of that in mind, I think that it doesn't come as a surprise that I'm personally invested in it. In fact, I bought shares of it at $101 per share each one. I bought them, I'm still currently holding, and I'm certainly planning on buying more. Nevertheless, for me personally, this is a company to for now just watch, because it is currently trading at price to earnings ratio of 31.6 times earnings, when during the past years it was trading at around 20 times earnings, which is a bit high. As I said, this is definitely a company with future, and I'm certain that even if I invest today with relatively high prices or high valuation, in 10 years it will be up from now. But I just feel that investors are jumping onto these stocks when they see that others, for instance in the tourism sector or other sectors, are not performing well. So I'm kind of waiting to see how the markets go if, for instance, a vaccine is found. In terms of purchasing more shares of the company, as I said, for now I will be waiting, seeing how things go, but of course if they go again to $101 per share, I will for sure add more to my position. In any case, these are just my thoughts and my plans with this stock, but of course it doesn't mean that you should do the same. Anyways, I'm very curious to know what you think of waste management itself as a company. Do you think that it is overvalued? Please let me know in the comments below. I would love to hear from you. If you enjoyed the video, then please make sure to give it a like, subscribe to the channel if you're not yet subscribed, and as always, see you next time.